have a full board of 5 jokers. They are all fully leveled up. You have foil editions, holographic edition, and your deck is perfectly thinned out. You enter a mid to late game ante. You play your absolute best hand, and you watch the score counter. You expect a massive explosion of points, but instead, the multiplier barely crawls forward. You miss the required blind by tens of thousands of points, and your perfect run violently crashes into a brick wall. You sit there starting at the game over screen, wondering what went wrong. You blame the RNG, you blame the card draw, you think the game is just unfairly balanced. But the harsh truth is, it wasn't the game's fault, it was yours. You didn't lose because you had the wrong jokers. You lost because you committed the single biggest mathematical mistake in Balatro. You didn't understand the order of operations. Balatro is not just a game about what cards you have. It is fundamentally a game about where you put them. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how moving a single joker just 1 inch to the right can instantly transform a 20,000 point hand into a 200,000 point nuke. I'm going to break down the exact mathematical formula the game engine uses, and I will give you the ultimate blueprint for organizing your board. Stop guessing, stop losing to basic math, and let's dive into the matrix of Balatro. To understand why your late game runs are collapsing, we first need to understand the trap that almost every single new player falls into during the early game. I call this the flat Mult Trap. When you first start a run, your base hands score very little. A basic flash might give you 35 chips and a ×4 multiplier. When you open the shop in Ante 2 and see a joker that says plus 15 mult, your brain instantly recognizes the value. You buy it, and suddenly your flash isn't multiplying by 4 anymore, it's multiplying by 19. You become addicted to this feeling. You start hoarding jokers that add flat numbers. You get plus 20 mult from the half joker. You get another plus 15 from Mystic Summit. You stack them up, and for the first 4 antes, you feel like an absolute god. You are one-shooting bosses, your economy is booming, and the game feels incredibly easy. But then, Ante 6 arrives. This is where Balatro stops testing your luck and starts testing your math. The blinds stop growing linearly and start growing exponentially. They jump from 20,000 to 60,000 and eventually into the hundreds of thousands. And here is the brutal reality of mathematics. Linear addition cannot beat exponential scaling. If your entire build relies on adding 15 plus 15 plus 20, your multiplier will eventually hit a hard ceiling. It doesn't matter how many flat multiplier jokers you have. If you are just adding numbers together, you're mathematically doomed to fail. You are bringing a calculator to a supercomputer fight. To break through this invisible ceiling, you must make the transition from addition to multiplication. You need jokers that feature the X symbol, the xmult. Jokers like Cavendish, Campfire, or any polychrome edition card. These do not add to your multiplier. They multiply the total value of everything you have built so far. But just having an xmult joker is not enough. And this brings us to the core secret of the Balatro engine, the left to right rule. The game reads your board exactly like a book. It calculates your chips and multipliers starting from the farthest left position and moving to the farthest right. This single mechanic is the difference between winning and losing. Let's look at a live example to prove this. This is case study 1. In this hand, I have a massive flat multiplayer engine and I have one powerful xmult joker giving me ×3. Watch what happens when I place the xmult joker on the far left side of my board. I play my hand. The engine reads from left to right. It takes my base hand multiplier, immediately multiplies it by 3, and then it starts adding all my flat plus multi jokers. Because the multiplication happened before the big numbers were added, the final score is pitiful. It's barely a fraction of what I need. Now, I'm going to change my hand. I'm not going to change my jokers, I am simply going to click my xmult joker and drag it into the absolute far right side of the board. I play the exact same hand. Watch the math cascade now. The engine adds up my base multiplier, then it adds my plus 15, then it adds my plus 20. It builds this massive towering number of flat mult, and then at the very end of the calculation, it takes that entire massive sum and multiplies it by 3. The score explodes. Same cards, same jokers, completely different outcome. If learning this left-to-right mechanic just saved you future runs, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. My goal is to completely decode the hidden mechanics of roguelike games so you can win more consistently. Also, drop a comment below and tell me, how many hours did you play Balatro before you realized you could physically rearrange your jokers? Don't worry, we all been there. Let's get back to the blueprint. Now that you understand how the engine reads your board, we can construct the ultimate, mathematically perfect joker arrangement. I call this the golden ratio. If you follow this blueprint from left to right, you will never lose points to a bad math again. Slot 1 and slot 2, the base builders. The far left side of your board should be reserved for jokers that generate raw chips, economy or utility. Jokers like the bull, square joker or blue joker. Because chips are calculated completely separately from your multiplier, their position relative to your other scoring joker doesn't matter for the final math. Put them on the left so they are out of the way. This is also where you keep your economy jokers that don't score points at all. Slot 3 and slot 4, the flat multipliers. Moving to the right, you place your additive jokers. This is your Mystic Summit, your Abstract Joker, your Fibonacci. You group those together in the middle so they could build a massive flat numerical foundation. You want the engine to add all of these together into one giant lump sum of multiplier points. Slot 5, the carry. Finally, the absolute farthest right position on your entire board must be reserved for your xmult jokers, your Cavendish, your vampire, your hologram. This placement guarantees that the engine will calculate all your base stats at every single piece of flat multiplier you have, and then, right before the final score is tailed, it will multiply that massive sum exponentially. If you have multiple xmult jokers, you generally want to place the ones with the highest multiplier on the farthest right. Always save the biggest multiplication for the very last step. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. If you want to play Balatro at a professional level, you need to understand the left to right rule does not only apply to your joker bar. It applies to the physical cards you play on the table. When you select 5 cards and hit play, the game engine scores those cards one by one, from left to right, before it even looks at your jokers. Why does this matter? Because of enchantments. Let's say you're playing a flash, and one of your cards is a glass card, which provides a ×2 multiplier when scored. Or maybe you have a polychrome card providing a ×1.5 multiplier. If you are not paying attention, the game might automatically place the glass card on the far left side of your played hand. If it scores first, it will multiply your tiny base multiplier, and then the rest of your normal cards will just add their flat stats afterwards. You're wasting the enhancement. Before you hit the play button, you must manually click and drag your enhanced multiplier cards to the far right side of your selected hand. You want your normal cards to score first, building up your flat multiplier so that your glass card can multiply the biggest possible number before the calculation moves up to the joker bar. It is exactly the same logic as the jokers, just applied on a micro level. By managing the order of your played cards, you are squeezing every single drop of mathematical value out of your deck. Balatro is a game of perfect information disguised as a game of chance. The RNG dictates what cards you draw and what jokers appears in the shop. But once those tools are in your hands, the RNG ends and the mathematics begin. Stop playing the game on autopilot. Stop blindly adding +15 multipliers and wondering why Ante 8 is impossible to beat. Treat your joker board like a highly calibrated machine. Build your chip base on the left, stack your flat multipliers in the middle, and always put your exponential xmult carries on the absolute far right. Manage your card order, respect the left to right engine, and you will watch your scores transform from decent to game breaking. Now that you understand the mathematical engine, you need a strategy that perfectly utilizes it. Click the video on screen right now to see my deep dive on why traditional poker hands are a trap and how playing the high card completely breaks the game's difficulty. Thank you so much for watching. This was the first mistake. See you before the next one.